Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome to today's not so live Facebook Live. Yes, I'm doing it on Zoom again because it's easier. It is Wednesday here, and you can see the sun's coming in. It's Watershed Wednesdays. It's the day of the week that I was talking about last week. It's my favorite day because it's bang in the middle when it's full of possibilities. Whether the week started well or not so well, we've still got the whole thing to play for. And for me, it's been a great week. Lots of things happening, lots of things in the pipeline, lots of work. So far, considering it's the middle of the week, we're in a pretty good place. I hope it's been a good week for you. And if it hasn't, as I said last time, there's everything to play for. So today I was thinking about what to share with you in this kind of mini 15-minute training catch up. And when I was walking the beach this morning, I thought we would talk about the resources for success, the things that you need to be successful in your life. And they may not be the things that you think they are, but let's explore them together and see what you think. Or the light's doing crazy things, you can see it's, anyway, resources. I said I was walking the beach. Now, it's something that I do every day, and I have constructed my life in such a way that I'm able to walk on a beach every day, because for me, that's part of what makes my life the way that I want it. But today it was beautiful, and we've had some mad weather up here. It's been the first day I've been out without max and things. It was still pretty windy, but it was an absolutely beautiful day. And it really, and I was pondering, which as I do when I walk in the mornings, what we were going to explore today. And I just thought, let's talk about this whole idea of resources for success. And for me, they start with what I think is the principal resource that we're all going to need, and you're all going to find and need to find to do this work if we're going to do this together. And that's creating time and space for yourself. I'll say that again. It's about creating time and space for yourself, because nothing's going to happen. None of this stuff's going to happen. None of what you want to do is going to happen. You're not going to be able to even connect with what you think you need to do if you don't create that time and space for yourself. And I know, as I'm saying it, that many of you already maybe already having arguments in your heads or in your hearts about why that's not possible, because you've got so much to do. And there are so many people relying on you. And there's so many other things that need your space and time. Well, I'm here to tell you today that actually you can't attend to any of those things with your best version of yourself and with real commitment and effort unless you first take them some time to prioritize and look after yourself, which means creating and eking out time and space for yourself in the day. And how this fits in with success, for us to even figure out what success means for us, what we want to do and how we're going to do it, we need the time and space to actually reflect on what that is. And apart from that, this regular creation of time and space allows us to really connect with ourselves, with what's going on in here, how this is all feeling, how it's working, how it's not working. And it's this disconnection and this not allowing ourselves to do that often leads in many cases to some results that we don't really want. And I'm speaking from experience. It's now 17 years, I can't believe it's that long, but 17 years ago for me, I got to a place where I had disconnected so completely. I was so into the work and working, that I finished a contract. In fact, I had to finish the contract because I was pretty much in meltdown. Thought I'd take a short break, stop work, and then couldn't get up. Eventually, I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, and it took me 6 years to recover to a point where I was able to actually show up and commit to be able to doing any work for any protracted amount of time. For 6 years, I couldn't trust my energy. And if I didn't know what my energy was doing, how could I commit to do anything for anyone? I had to spend all of that time that I hadn't spent in one big lump trying to rebuild my health, my well-being, and actually losing one career, but in some respects, not a bad thing, to kind of find and create another one. So all of my work is driven from this need and this passion to kind of make sure that nobody ends up in a place where they're so disconnected and not allow themselves any space that when it does happen, they have got no choice. They actually push themselves so far to the edge that the body takes over, because the body's always sending us signals. I wasn't listening, it was sending me signals for years, and I just disregarded them. And eventually the signal just got fed up and just thought, right, you know what, if we're not going to stop, we're going to stop for you. And what I don't want for anybody is to be in that situation where you are stopped, because coming back is such a journey and it's such a challenge. And I feel blessed that in 6 years, I was able to find my way back, or find my way forward, as it turned out, to where I needed to be. Because I know people that were never able to bring their bodies and their minds back to a place where they could start to interact with the world around them. So that's kind of almost the worst case scenario of time and space. But that's the whole point. So I don't want anyone to get there for any reason. And I actually think I was quite lucky. What I got was something that, with time and with commitment and with patience and with surrender and with acceptance and with effort and with tears and with lots of help, I was able to work my way through and come out of. Sometimes we don't have that luxury. So this time and space thing, excuse me, is critical on so many levels. It's critical for you to have the capacity to connect with what's going on for you in your head and your heart. So you know, you can actually ask the questions, what do I want and how do I get it? It's critical for you to have the energy to do what you need to do. It's critical for you to be connected enough to understand when things aren't working quite the way that they should be, so you can catch them early enough. So time and space is that resource for success. The first one we're going to look at, and we've talked about a little bit, is time and space. Trust me, you are not so important and your work is not so important that you can't carve out 15 minutes in a day to just check in, to take a bit of fresh air, to figure out what's going on for you in here, to figure out what's going on for you in there, to connect with whatever it is, the thing that you've maybe not wanted to, that you know you need to look at, because actually this is the thing that we need, that needs our attention. You are not so busy and you are not so important that you can't be important enough to create that space and time for. So resource number one, I'd like to invite you to begin to, and suggest quite strongly that you begin to take on board quite seriously, if you want to be successful, and whatever that success means for you, each of us is something different, but also to thrive, is you need to create some space and time for yourself by prioritizing yourself. And we'll talk about that whole thing about making it you a priority another time in more detail. So space and time is one. Number two, ridiculous, but so not ridiculous, is sleep. Another one that's close to my heart, because for the last kind of 5 or so years, I've struggled with sleep. And that's the hormonal thing that's going on, and but it makes you realize when it becomes such a thing for you, if you're somebody that this resonates with, where sleep is a real challenge, when you have the odd night that you sleep really well, you recognize how fundamentally different you are as a person, how more able you are to cope, how much more energy you have, how you're so much more creative, how you're so much more receptive, how much happier you are. So if you're at a place where you are not prioritizing your sleep, I would suggest that you take some time again and some effort, and you start to do that. We need to be resourced as human beings, to be even on the very basis of levels, to be even able to begin to do the bigger things that we want to do. So time and space and sleep. The third one that's going to make you so successful, I promise, drink water. You know, if you were thinking when you're going to get some 5 tips that were going to blow your mind, you are going to get 5 tips that are going to blow your mind, but they're perhaps not the 5 tips you thought they were going to be. But these ones are the difference between, I think, life and death, difference between short-term success and longevity, the difference between keeping body and mind and soul together, because that's what allows us to do all the things that we want to do. A ridiculous amount of us are walking around dehydrated. I think something like between 80 and 90% of adults are underhydrated. Go figure. 80 to 90% of us are underhydrated. When we don't drink enough, our cognitive function is impaired, we're not operating very well, our bodies aren't operating well, we don't have energy. So if you are sitting here watching this, Mr. and Mrs. Cranky Pants, and you're not feeling so great, how much have you had to drink today? For the love of all things good, go and get a glass of water, drink, hydrate. So simple, so easy. And one of the basic things you need as a resource to be successful. Look at what we're doing. We're talking base level here. Before we start talking about the bigger things we're going to do, let's get the basics in place. Time and space, sleep, water. This next one, interesting one, controversial one. Eat in a way that supports you. And I say it that way because for every one of us, we have to do the work of finding out what is it that we need to take in that enables us to do our best work, that enables our brains to function, that enables our bodies to support us energetically, that enables us to actually even show up in a really good mood. If you've done the work, which many of us are doing and have done, you know which foods that you eat that make you feel, and the ones that kind of play out in all sorts of weird and wonderful ways. So eat the food that supports you and eat it regularly enough to support you. This is not about body beautiful. This is about body, alive body. And hopefully the two things will work very well together for you. If you've done the work to work out what suits you best, stick with what suits you best. But nutrition is a different from anything. It's about what we need to keep ourselves in the best possible condition that we can be, so we can do the amazing things that we want to do. So resources, let's recap to date. Time and space, biggie. We'll talk about that one again for a whole 15 minutes because we've got to talk about prioritizing yourself. But time and space is number one. Number two, I think, was sleep. Number three was water. And number four was nutrition. And the last one is move. Now, I have moved in all kinds of ways in my life. And right now, at this period in my life, my moving is I create, and I do my space and time together with my moving. As I said, I've created a life and a way of living where I live 5 minutes from the sea, because I've always wanted that. And it was my vision, and it's now been realized, that part of it. And every morning, come rain or shine, and where I live, there's a lot of rain, I am on that beach and I walk, because for me, it is about not so much about the exercise, it's about my mental and emotional as well as my physical health. It is my protected time in the day. That's my space and time. It's this time, and it's a space where I can check in with myself. I can reconnect with the world. I'm in nature, so it enables me to reconnect with the world around me. It's an incredibly creative space for me. It's a space for me to work out what's going on in my life that it's such a precious time. But I've managed to link together my movement or my exercise part of it with my mental health and awareness part of it, with my space and time. So I've managed to bring them together. So what are you doing that's movement? I know some amazing people, some of you might be watching today, you know who you are, who they run. I used to run, I was never that good, but they run to do that. But what's your thing? What are you doing in the things we're talking about that creates these resources for success? Because I'm telling you, if you haven't got any of these things in place, the other stuff that we're all working towards, it's never going to happen. And if it does happen, you will not sustain it because you haven't got these base level things in place. So if we were going to recap, space and time, and that's as much about allowing you space and time to reconnect with you and where you are and what's going on and what you're feeling and what you're thinking. Just space to check in, because my God, you deserve it. We all deserve it. How else, if we don't do that, can we then be accessible to anybody else? So space and time is number one. Number two, we talked about sleep, my particular favorite, which is now coming back. And I just feel so blessed to be able to sleep again. You know, sleep, prioritize your sleep. Think of the difference, think of children. I always look at babies and children because they're such good models of what we forget that we still are, really. Think of what kids are like when they haven't had enough sleep. Cranky pants. We're no different. So we need to prioritize that. So, and there's so much, you know, there are people whose whole raison d'etre is teaching people about sleep. And God knows I've read enough of them in my journey to kind of try and finding that. So do what you need to do. If that's your way you want to start, and start with sleep, because for me, I think it's one of the biggest ones. Do the work to make sure, because it's in putting these levels in place that we're building the foundations to allow ourselves to do the work that we really want to do. If you work with me, which I hope you will, in the future on one of my programs, you will know that the fundamental part of everything what we do, the foundations are health and well-being. Even in my introduction, I always say it's helping people to create the careers they want for lives where they thrive. Because having been in a place where the physical and emotional and spiritual part was so disconnected and broken, I couldn't have anything else. If I didn't have my health, mental, physical, and emotional, and my well-being, how could I possibly do anything else? And I couldn't. So it's fundamental to the work that we do that we try to balance these two things. I really believe that it's absolutely possible. It has to be. Otherwise, how do we have longevity in our careers and our lives? We just don't. So we're talking about time and space. You can find today 15 minutes to just go for a little walk, get some fresh air, sit down and connect. If you're a meditator, meditate. If you're not, just sit quietly, find a quiet space and just breathe and check in and see what am I thinking? What are my feelings? Always a good place to start. What does my body feel like today? Oh gosh, there's a bit of a niggle there. What's that? Curiosity, that we're just curious about what's going on. Sleep, hydration, nutrition, and the last one that we talked about, which was movement. We're all talking about resilience so much more. Some of us have been talking about this for 17 years, but more people, who cares? Everyone's talking about it now. But for us to be resilient, and this is the ability to kind of be flexible and bounce back when things happen, we need to be resourced to do that. And this base level stuff enables us to do that. So before we start talking about the resources that we need to think about what we want, to think about what's important to us, to figure out what our next step is in our career, to figure out, is this the right career for us, to figure out, am I ready to move into leadership, to figure out what authentic leadership means for me, to figure out whether or not am I showing up as who I am, all those things. Let's step it right back to the very basics that we've talked about today. And this, for me, are the resources that enable us to succeed and to thrive. Thriving in particular, but the base levels to enable us to begin that journey towards success. So that is my little bit of discussion and training with you today. I am always curious to see what you think about what I've shared with you. So please do leave your comments under this video. If you agree, disagree, have other ideas, have other suggestions about what you might like to hear. And I always have something for you. So to kind of help you in this whole idea of space and time and reconnection with yourself. And if it's alien to you or new to you and you want a resource, there is one under this video that I created a few years ago. I've just done it again myself, and it is super good, even if I say so myself. It's an excellent piece of work. It's called Rebalanced You. It's a 5-day just a little thing to help you get a vignette in your day that's for you, to remind you that you're important, to remind you that you're a priority. Because if you can really remember that and take some time and space for yourself and get these base level stuff in place, then we can start to do the big stuff. We can really start working on the other things that we want to start taking apart and working on to help you to get to a place where you're working using the very best of yourself, sharing the very best of yourself from this place of complete authenticity, from this place of complete congruence and confidence, because you know who you are and you know what, you're really okay with it. That's where we want to get to. So that's it for today, my friends. I hope it made sense to you. And it was all inspired by my walk on the beach today, which I have to say was really quite beautiful. The wind's been mad. We have had mad winds here. But the way that my walk is, when I'm walking down in one direction, the wind's behind me, which is always really lovely. Then when I'm walking back, I'm walking into the wind. And just a quick little story from when I was walking last week, the weather was crazy, beaten down rain and wind. And when I was going, I had all my Mac, because I've got all weather clothes for every weather. And I was walking down and the wind was behind me, and I had sometimes I listen to an audio book, or I listen to podcasts, or sometimes I just think. And on this particular day, I was just musing to myself, and I just started to laugh, which is on your own in the beach, it's a bit crazy, but anyway, nobody was there. And I was laughing because I just thought this is a metaphor for life. You know, sometimes the wind's behind us and it's driving us forward, sometimes even too quickly, but we're, you know, it's good. The wind is behind us and beneath us, moving us forward. Then when I was walking back, I thought, oh, and sometimes life is like this, because the wind was so fierce. I had my head down, I had to have my hand on my hat, even though I had my hoodie on my Mac, and I could only I was barely making one step at a time in front of the other. And I just thought to myself, God, sometimes it's just like this. You just got to get your head down and your head's in the wind and you can't even sometimes see where you're going. You just got to trust if you keep stepping a step at a time, you will get there. And eventually I got to my path and came off the beach and came to home and you know, took all my wet stuff off and it dried out. But it was a metaphor, long-winded way of saying I walk on the beach every day. But the reason for that is to kind of almost share with you how I use my space and time. It's a gift for me, but it's a gift I created for myself and I give to myself. So yours might not be walking on the beach every day, but find yours. That's what today's about. What are the resources that you need to reconnect with? And if you haven't got them, find, build, create for yourself so you can get this base level in place that's going to set you up for the success, can't even speak now, that we're going to have together. So that's the end of our Facebook Live, Not So Live Zoom video today. Have an absolutely amazing day. Remember, it's Wednesday. It's the middle of the week. We've still got everything to play for. We're right there in the cusp of it where we can turn it around. And if you've been doing great work, keep doing great work. And maybe for you, you've been doing such great work, you can take a time out now. Create some space and time for yourself on this Wednesday, whatever it is. Just have an amazing day, an amazing rest of the week. Use the resources under this video. There are plenty more on my website on www.patriciaezechie.com. You please like me so you can get notified. This sounds so needy, but please like me so you can get notified when I put these new videos up and any of the new trainings I'm going to be offering. If you want me to talk to you about something or support you in something particular, just leave your suggestions and your comments under this video. Just a little vignette of what's coming up. I think we're going to be talking about overcoming imposter syndrome, because I'm doing a lot of work with people at the moment on that. I'm running some masterclasses with some organizations around that. We're talking about creating impact, how you do that. We're talking about all sorts of amazing things, mindset. So that's all coming. If you don't want to miss out, like the page or follow me. I think I've forgotten what Facebook doing. I think it's follow the page, and then you'll be notified when the next video comes. That's up for today. That's us for today. So it's been a bit of a light show here. I haven't got the lighting right, but hopefully the sound is better because I've got a new mic. We're getting there. Hasn't got to be perfect. We'll talk about that another day. Have an amazing, amazing, amazing day. And yeah, just take some time to take care of you today, and take the very best care of yourself. And I will see you again, hopefully next week. Bye for now.